The two of them stayed like that, silent and unmoving, for some time afterward. "I think we can relax now," Akira said, eventually. "The walls," Akechi croaked. "The what?" "Check the walls. If they're strong enough. Don't know if this room will hold." The city's buildings collapsing on themselves. "Oh, sure. One sec. I'd do it myself, but... No, stay put. Those chains must have hurt like hell." He rose from his seat and experimentally ran his hand across the perimeter of the theater, applying occasional pressure, seeing if the wall would give. It held steady, and he sighed in relief and let his eyes unfocus again. Trying to maintain his night vision for too long was like tensing a muscle. "I think we're good," he said. "Glad to hear it." Akira heard creaking lever as Akechi finally got down from the chair. "I want to apologize for my earlier behavior. I reacted poorly." "Don't worry about it. Have you really been stuck here ever since we last ran into each other?" "I'm not even certain where here is." "It's the Sea of Souls, apparently. You know, where all the shadows and personas and everything come from. But every time we destroyed a palace, it fell down here. And eventually we got rid of mementos. And that was so huge that it's still digesting or something. So everything's all mixed up and full of rubble. Arsène calls it the Dead Sea." "Who?" "Arsène. My persona. My original one, I mean. He's chatty." "I see," Akechi said. "I may regret asking, but what day is it? In the real world?" Akira hesitated, but he had a feeling that even in total darkness, Akechi would catch him in a lie. "It's November," he said. "Not sure about the date. I've been here for a little while too." "Oh." No clear emotion. "That sounds about right. And how did you arrive?" "I took the bus." Expectant silence. "It's a long story. You?" "It's a long story. I don't suppose this bus of yours is idling outside, waiting to carry you back?" "It actually might be, sort of. But I don't think it's going to let me leave until that creep with the chains is taken care of. What the hell is that thing? It even had a persona." "I think it's a who and not a what, but beyond that, your guess is as good as mine," Akechi said. "He hasn't been here as long as me, but he's become more active of late. He hunts shadows, I think. Rips them out of the water and then disappears with them." His voice turned distant. "You might have heard it. The screams. They carry quite a long way. People in the real world have been going into comas. Not just Japan, either. It's happening all over. They're calling it paranoia syndrome for some reason. It's a bit of a garish name, but I understand why you'd see a connection. Damage to a person's shadow is mirrored on their psyche in the real world, as you know. And the shadows here no longer appear to be tied to any one geographical location. Many of them don't speak Japanese. Our pursuers' little hunting trips may very well be the cause of a globe-spanning pandemic." "So that settles it." He leaned against the wall, staring into the solid dark. "Just have to get the drop on that guy and beat him down. Want to help out?" You're proposing an alliance? It's not like you have anything better to do. Akechi laughed a little. It's good to see that recent events haven't put too much of a strain on our friendship. Akira didn't answer. An entire year lost, Akechi mused. But there might be a silver lining to that, It's unlikely that the authorities would be looking for me too closely after all this time. Once I escape from here, I should be able to slip out of public view with relative ease. I won't ask for your assistance in that regard, of course. You've probably participated in quite enough illegal activity already. Still no comment. Kurusu, are you there? When Akira finally spoke, his voice was toneless and level and flat as a mirror. You killed Futaba's mother, he said. You killed Haru's father. You were probably planning to kill Makoto's sister. Now it was Akechi's turn to say nothing. Futaba and I did a little research on Shido's rise to power, Akira went on. People definitely had a habit of dropping dead around him. Considering what I know now, I'd say you've murdered at least a couple dozen people over the last few years. And that's not counting the psychotic breakdowns, or the injuries and casualties sustained by incidents like that subway crash, or the families of the people you've hurt, and on, and on, and on. He waited for some retort from Akechi, but none came. I've got no problem partnering up while we're stuck together. But we're not friends, and I won't let you just walk away from everything you've done. For a time, the only sound was the distant drip of water. Of course, Akechi said hoarsely. That's fair. I haven't been thinking clearly as of late. Forget I said anything. Akira stayed put against the wall, and after a moment, Akechi started talking again. But now his voice was cheerful, forced, uncomfortably brittle. I would at least appreciate a bite to eat before turning myself in, to be completely honest. I don't seem to need food down here, but the body still misses it. There was an excellent kaiseki I had in Shibuya sometime back in... when was it? October. It must have been October. I had to pass on the sake, bit underage for that, but the other courses were divine, the beef especially. Even in Tokyo, you don't often get wagyu that tender. Line was terrible, of course, but I didn't mind that so much. It's a good opportunity for people watching. And on long lines, I got plenty of attention. Ace detective at all, haha. No one would really talk to me, but I heard them talking about me. Which, I suppose, is the next best thing, right? Right? Akira said nothing, because he couldn't think of anything to say. And then he heard Akechi's breath hitch and break. He was crying. This was someone who would have cheerfully decapitated him not an hour ago. But Akira imagined the sight of him, hunched over in that ridiculous armor and weeping in the dark, and felt the same way he felt when Akechi had finally admitted defeat in that engine room. Something between disgust and pity. Hey, Akechi, he sniffled. What is it? What happened to you back in that palace? We were all set to come back for you even after you locked us out. But then you disappeared from Futaba's radar. Were you just hiding from us? No, it wasn't that. I'm not sure what happened exactly, but I think I actually died for a while. He sniffed again. I think you saved me in the end. You mean like figuratively, or? Yes. No. It's difficult to explain. Why do you ask? Like I said, we would have come back for you. He paused. I'm sorry it took so long. It's fine, Akechi replied quietly. I should get some rest before I stick my foot back in my mouth. Good idea. Maybe I could try getting some sleep, too. Akira picked his way back to the chairs and settled in. The cushion was unpleasantly damp. Kurusu, I realize this is a foolish question, but, I'm not imagining this, right? When I wake up, you'll still be here? Yeah. I'll be here. Okay, he said. Okay. Akira stared up at the broken ceiling and listened to Akechi's breaths. After a little while, they became deep and slow. He still didn't feel tired himself. As Lavenza had said, he had no real body to tire out in the first place. But he laced his hands over his chest and closed his eyes and made the effort anyway. Akechi. Jesus, how long has he been in the Dead Sea? It's been over a little bit of a year, but do you think time passes differently in the Dead Sea than in the real world? How much longer would a year in the Dead Sea be? In the real world be in the Dead Sea. How much longer would a year be like that? Jesus Christ.